Delilah Hamlin, the poised and resilient eldest daughter of iconic actress and television personality Lisa Rinna, has stepped into the spotlight once again, this time to share an profoundly personal and harrowing account of her long-standing battle with endometriosis. At just 27 years old, Delilah has navigated a labyrinth of physical agony, emotional turmoil, and medical missteps that have defined much of her young adult life. Her candid revelations, delivered with raw vulnerability during a recent episode of the SheMD podcast, paint a vivid picture of a condition that not only ravaged her body but also triggered terrifying seizures, plunged her into cycles of depression and anxiety, and ultimately propelled her toward sobriety and self-discovery. Endometriosis is an insidious chronic disorder that affects millions of women worldwide, yet it remains shrouded in misunderstanding and underdiagnosis. The condition arises when tissue eerily similar to the lining inside the uterus begins to grow aberrantly on other organs within the pelvic region: ovaries, fallopian tubes, the bowel, or even the bladder. This rogue tissue responds to hormonal fluctuations just like its uterine counterpart, thickening, breaking down, and bleeding each menstrual cycle. But unlike normal menstrual blood, which exits the body, this misplaced tissue has nowhere to go, leading to inflammation, scar tissue formation, and excruciating pain. The repercussions extend far beyond the pelvis: severe fatigue, debilitating cramps, gastrointestinal distress, and in severe cases like Delilah's, neurological episodes such as seizures. Infertility looms as a potential shadow, affecting up to 50% of those diagnosed, and the pain can be so unrelenting that it disrupts every facet of daily life, from work and relationships to basic mobility. For Delilah, the onset of symptoms was insidious, creeping into her teenage years like an uninvited guest that refused to leave. She recalls the excruciating periods that struck during high school, cramps so ferocious they forced her out of class and into a haze of isolation. "I would be taken out of school," she shared, her voice steady but laced with the weight of those memories. These weren't the typical monthly discomforts dismissed as just cramps by well-meaning but uninformed adults. They were visceral assaults that left her doubled over, sweating, and desperate for relief. Gynecologist after gynecologist examined her, prescribing painkillers or birth control pills, but none uttered the word endometriosis. Instead, she was shuttled toward other diagnoses, like premenstrual dysphoric disorder, PMDD, a severe form of PMS characterized by mood swings, irritability, and profound depression. It was a label that captured the emotional wreckage but missed the root cause festering beneath. The first whisper of the truth came not from a medical professional but from an unlikely source: pop sensation Halsey. Years ago, the singer took to Instagram to destigmatize her own endometriosis journey, posting about the isolation, the misdiagnosis, and the relentless quest for validation. Delilah stumbled upon it during one of her darker scrolls through social media, a moment that planted a seed of recognition. "That was the first time I had ever heard of it," she admitted. But even then doubt lingered. She fixated on polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, another hormonal heavyweight that doctors had floated as a possibility, with its cysts, irregular cycles, and metabolic chaos. Endometriosis felt too niche, too invisible, to apply to her neatly curated life as a budding model and influencer. As the years wore on, the physical toll escalated into something truly frightening: seizures. These weren't subtle tremors but full-body convulsions that struck with hormonal precision, often ramping up in the days leading to or during her period. "I would get really hot and I would start convulsing," Delilah described, the words hanging heavy in the air. Imagine the terror of that unpredictability: a young woman in the prime of her career, suddenly seizing in a meeting, at a photo shoot, or alone in her apartment, her body betraying her without warning. The heat would build like a fever dream, muscles locking in rebellion, consciousness flickering like a faulty light bulb. These episodes weren't just medical emergencies. They were thefts of agency, reminders that her body was a battlefield she couldn't escape. The seizures became the tipping point, the catalyst for profound change. In 2021, amid the haze of the pandemic and personal upheaval, Delilah made the courageous decision to get sober from alcohol. It wasn't a casual choice but a survival imperative. The substance had been a crutch, a fleeting numbing agent against the onslaught of pain and uncertainty, but it exacerbated her vulnerabilities, intertwining with her mental health in dangerous ways. The main reason for sobriety, she confessed, was those seizures, harbingers of a deeper crisis that demanded confrontation. Yet, sobriety's path is rarely linear. That same year, in a heartbreaking accident, she overdosed after unwittingly mixing propranolol, a beta blocker often prescribed for anxiety and high blood pressure with Benadryl and over-the-counter antihistamine. The combination triggered a toxic synergy, sending her into a spiral that required urgent intervention. It was a wake-up call etched in near tragedy, underscoring how endometriosis's ripple effects had infiltrated every corner of her existence. Delilah's mental health journey mirrors the physical one in its complexity and resilience. Substance abuse, she explained, wasn't a moral failing but a symptom of unaddressed despair. I definitely struggled with substance abuse because I was having so much depression and anxiety, she said. Panic attacks descended like storms, chest-tightening, breath-stealing episodes where the world narrowed to a pinpoint of fear. No one, it seemed, was digging deep enough to connect the dots. Gynecologists treated the surface, therapists addressed the emotions, but the root, a hormonal and inflammatory storm fueled by endometriosis, remained buried. This fragmented care is all too common for endometriosis sufferers, who often endure an average of 7 to 10 years between symptom onset and diagnosis. Delilah's story is a microcosm of this systemic oversight, a testament to the advocacy needed to amplify women's pain. 2 rounds of inpatient rehab for mental health in 2018 marked early chapters in her recovery narrative. Fresh out of high school and thrust into the high-stakes world of New York University, the distance from her Los Angeles roots amplified her isolation. I became terribly depressed, she recalled, the city's relentless energy clashing with her internal fragility. Those stints at treatment facilities were sanctuaries of sorts, spaces to unpack the layers of grief and rebuild from the ground up. Emerging from them, Delilah channeled her energy into her burgeoning career, signing with the prestigious Lions model agency and gracing campaigns for global heavyweights like H&M, Michael Kors, DKNY, and Skinny Dipped. Her influencer presence, with its polished feeds of fashion hauls and wellness tips, belies the grit behind the glamour. She's the songstress behind tracks like Nothing Lasts Forever, blending vulnerability with velvet vocals, and a partner in ventures like Roadway Moving, where her entrepreneurial spirit shines.